He built a bomb shelter at home and lived in it with his wife. They had just hidden inside when a huge explosion occurred outside the house. To avoid nuclear radiation, the man quickly sealed the iron door of the bomb shelter and set a countdown switch. They could only go out after 35 years, when all nuclear radiation had dissipated. But they didn't know the explosion outside was caused by a plane crash. During the long wait, the couple had their first child. They named him David. Fortunately, the bomb shelter had enough supplies, so they never worried about food. The father taught David to read from childhood and various fighting skills. The mother taught him etiquette and essential skills for social occasions. Soon it was David's 35th birthday. They had almost forgotten the countdown. That night a loud noise woke them up. They approached and saw the iron door had opened automatically, indicating the danger outside had passed. The family could finally return to the surface. The father offered to check the situation outside first. The once bustling residential area was now in ruins. He nervously looked around and found people outside acted very strangely. Frightened, he ran back to the bomb shelter and described what he saw outside. The father believed the nuclear radiation hadn't ended and they should set another countdown. But by then his wife was unhappy. She didn't want to stay in the basement forever, nor did she want her son to be trapped here for a lifetime. During the argument, the father had a heart attack. The mother hurriedly gave money to David, asking him to go out alone to buy supplies. David took the elevator slowly up to the surface. When he pushed open the door, he was stunned. It was the first time he had breathed outside air, but he didn't forget his mission. He then took a bus to the supermarket to buy supplies. 35 years later, prices had increased tenfold. The money his mother gave couldn't buy anything. David had to go home first to find a way. Since it was his first time out, he couldn't find his way home until passing by a collectibles store. He tried to exchange the baseball cards his father gave him for money, but the boss deliberately lowballed him to cheat. Just then the clerk came out. She unhesitatingly exposed the boss's lies and got fired for it. David fell in love at first sight with the kind girl. He asked her to help him sell the baseball cards. Of course, he would pay her a salary. The girl agreed decisively. During the long period of getting along, the girl also developed feelings for him, so David took her to meet his parents. To help his parents adapt to life above ground better, David sold some stocks and bought a large piece of land in the suburbs. Finally, the whole family lived happily together. The man was freezing to death, but he took off all his clothes, curled up naked in the snow. His teeth chattered from the cold. He could only blow on his palms, but it did nothing for him. He didn't put his clothes back on. Instead, he looked at the plastic bag in his hand, then stared at the ground and made a difficult decision. He poured out the flour in the bag, filled it completely with snow, and held it tightly in his arms. By nightfall, the snow hadn't melted at all. Worse still, his clothes were still wet. His pent-up emotions finally erupted. He roared about his misfortune. Just then, he saw a villa on the top of the mountain. The man danced with excitement. To preserve body heat, he had no choice but to put on the wet clothes. Then he hit the big trees to collect dry bark. After doing all this, he fell into a deep sleep. On the morning of the third day, he finally drank fresh water, then checked his phone and radio. Luckily, neither of them had shut down. Everything was ready. The man set off excitedly for the mountaintop. As time passed, his vision began to blur. Hunger swept over his entire body. He walked purely on instinct. When he was almost at the mountaintop, he was completely stunned. There was no sign of the villa at all. It was just an illusion, born out of his despair. Devastated, he stumbled and fell to the ground, losing the will to survive. When he woke up again, it was already the morning of the fourth day. He tried to stand up, but fell again. A sharp pain shot through his right leg. The man rolled up his pants leg and saw his sock covered in blood. Even his calf was purple. He realized he couldn't wait any longer. He had to treat the wound. He gritted his teeth and tore off the sock suddenly. The wound was torn open instantly. Pain spread all over his body. He didn't care about anything else. He tore off a piece of flesh, struggled for a long time, and finally put it in his mouth. After resting for a while, he started walking again. Suddenly, from above, came the roar of a helicopter. Great! It was the search and rescue team. He shouted for help loudly, but the distance was too far. He turned on the radio again, hoping they could pick up the signal, but it was all in vain. He watched the helicopter leave helplessly. In despair, the man seemed to see his mother. If he died like this, what would happen to her mother? Somehow, he held on until the 8th day. He didn't want to wait for death here, so he continued climbing towards the mountaintop. He was almost there, but the next second, he collapsed from exhaustion. He didn't wake up until much later. The radio still had no signal, and it was about to shut down. He didn't scream or shout. Instead, he calmly left his last words and took one final look at the snow-capped mountains. Just as he was about to face death, the radio finally picked up a signal.